What's going on, everyone? Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Ducks Dish podcast. I'm your host, Max Torres, publisher and lead editor of Ducks Digest, covering the Oregon Ducks for Sports Illustrated over on Fan Nation. We got a hoops episode today. Ducks got a big recruit out on the recruiting trail, so we're going to talk about it. And to do that, I am joined by my good buddy, Michael Weisenberg of Pro Insight, and he's going to break it all down for us, talk some hoops. He's gotten to do some of these evaluations, and I think he's got a great perspective that he has so kindly agreed to share with us. Michael, how we doing, man?
Doing very well, Max. Thanks so much for having me on, and very excited about the commitment today.
Absolutely, man. Well, let's hop into it. Let's not waste any time here. The big news of the day, Oregon picked up a commitment from 2023 small forward Mookie Cook out of Compass Prep out in Arizona. This is a huge commitment for the Ducks because obviously he's a phenomenal player, but I think there's also a little bit of added value because he is an Oregon native. Spent the earlier part of his high school career playing at Jefferson, where the Ducks also got Trajan Williams in the football recruiting realm. But just kind of off the top, Michael, just kind of wanted to get your perspective on the commitment and what you think he brings to this Oregon Ducks team.
Yeah, Mookie was also a legacy. His sister ran track for Oregon. I got to see Mookie and Trajan play their last few high school basketball games for Jefferson last year. During the blue bracket, they had little brackets of tournaments. And Mookie, ever since 8th grade, he was at an event called Primetime 40, and he's just really stood out. I got to see him as a 6'4" 8th grader. He's now about 6'7". Great length. He's a wonderful athlete, and you saw today, if you were watching the Geico Nationals finish this amazing alley-oop. Really good defender, a lot of versatility there, and the real go-to with Mookie is he's can cut and slash. He's a great passer, so he can be a secondary playmaker as well. And then he's really worked on his shot, and I think that's going to be a huge kind of swing skill for him once he gets to Oregon. But yeah, you love the size, the athleticism, and just a lot of ability there that certainly NBA teams are looking for and to contribute to winning at the college level.
Yeah, so we get a little bit of insight there with the skill set that Mookie's bringing to the table. I have his 247 profile here on the screen. If you guys are watching us on YouTube, at Oregon Football Max Torres is where you can find us, see us in that multi-platform excellence. 5-star forward, came down to Oregon, my Zags. I'm a Gonzaga alumni for folks who don't know. Alumnus, excuse me, alumni is plural. I'm a Zag alum. And then Kentucky was the other school in the mix there. So one other question I wanted to ask for you, Michael, what kind of message do you think this sends if you're, looking at Oregon as a recruiting power and Dana Altman? Because it seems like it's just a trend that we've really seen for a number of years now. Oregon is a force to be reckoned with all the blue bloods in the sport.
It has been a very rare occurrence where Oregon has beat out like a blue blood like Kentucky for a recruit. It doesn't happen often. Bowl, I think, was the last time it really happened. And then I actually got to go to Jamal Murray's college announcement when I was still living in Toronto, where I'm originally from. And he was down to Oregon and Kentucky and did not choose Oregon. But Mookie choosing Oregon, yeah, I think it's a huge sign. The fact that Oregon's in the mix for McDonald's All-Americans, like, it seems almost yearly at this point, and the fact that they're producing more pro prospects, not to mention what is happening with name, image, and likeness. I think those all are factors that really help Oregon. And yeah, I just think this is like an identity builder, and also like two prospects who just really kind of fit the mold of kind of wanting to build something at Oregon in 2023 with Mookie Cook and Jackson Shellstat.
Well, hey, you practically took the words out of my mouth with my next question, man. Jackson Shelstad, another high profile recruit in Dana Altman's 2023 Oregon recruiting class. Just give us a little bit more perspective there. What's it kind of going to look like, you think, or what value is there pairing a guy like Mookie with Jackson, who's another high level in state guy?
I think there's going to be a tremendous amount of value. They also play together on Oakland Soldiers, so they have experience playing with each other for quite a while. Jackson is just somebody who is a phenomenal shooter. He was kind of like Westland's uh, new heir apparent to Peyton Pritchard, and very explosive. He's about 6 feet tall, so the height isn't necessarily in his favor, but he makes up with just the ability to create separation, some explosive ability even near the basket, and then his shooting is, I would deem it excellent at this point. Just a great pull-up game, ability to set up teammates, really good on-ball defender as well. So yeah, I think those two guys just having that experience playing together, and I think genuinely really liking each other, and it seems like they might even have a possibility of playing together next year. In high school, we'll see what kind of happens there. But yeah, I think they really want to play together, and Oregon was the place that they saw just how they can build towards the future. And yeah, I think that I'm really excited to see how those two. I remember when you and I met Max, Mookie and Jackson were
On the
shooting
visit, right?
at their visit. Yeah, so yeah, just two guys who I think genuinely like each other and have skill sets that complement each other very well.
They already have some chemistry on the court as well, which is what you talked about there, Michael. Lots of great perspective on what Shellstad brings to the court as well. I know people hear that he can shoot, and that's got to be music to a lot of fans' ears out here in Eugene, because that was something that felt like it was missing, having that consistent shooting threat on this year's team. So going to be fun to see those guys play together without a doubt. Wanted to get some of your thoughts on the 2022 haul for Oregon, because we talked about Shellstad and Mookie. Those are 2023 guys, but Oregon is going to be welcoming some guys here in the not so far, not so distant future. So they're coming in relatively soon. That is Dior Johnson, Kalel Ware, Tyrone Williams, and Brennan Rigsby. Wanted to get some of your thoughts on the pieces that Dana Altman and his staff have assembled here in 2022. And recently, Dior, I think he announced that he was locked in with Oregon, which is certainly notable with Chris Crutchfield's departure to Omaha. So kind of a long-winded question, but just wanted to get some of your thoughts on the 2022 guys that are going to be headed to Eugene.
Yeah, I see what you're saying there as far as Crutch going to Omaha. He was doing such a great job on the recruiting trail, and I think was a huge factor in landing. I think particularly Kalel, and he seemed very locked in when he was at McDonald's All American game. And I just think it's a really nice haul. Oregon, certainly the three guards were the main players this year, with Will Richardson, Jacob Young, and Davion Harmon. Davion, I believe, will be the only one returning. I know Jacob's eligibility is over, and as I've heard rumors that Will Richardson may stay another year in college, there's no guarantee that it would be at Oregon. But yeah, I just bringing in that guard depth with Dior, with Tyrone Williams, with Brennan Rigsby, all guys who can. Well, Brennan, a really great shooter. The other two guys who I think can create a little bit, which I think Oregon was missing also. And then Kalel is a center who it seems like is rising up the recruiting rankings. Just has a lot of ability. Spectacular athlete at 7 feet tall. Moves very well. Great timing as a shot blocker, and just a good defender in general. And then what he's able to do above the rim. Oregon probably hasn't had that since like Chris Boucher or like Kenny Wooten. And I think there's a lot of excitement there with his ability to just come in and play right away. Dior is so talented and just somebody who has that ball handling ability, the ability to set up teammates, the pull up game. So yeah, with Dior being locked in, um, I still feel like there will need to be transfers to kind of make up the rest of the roster,
Sure.
and there's certainly a possibility. I know there have been rumors that Mookie could possibly reclassify to 2022. He seems pretty intent on being
I think he
2022.
clarified that it was
He,
2023,
he,
I
he
believe.
did. Things happen, so
Sure.
we never
Sure.
know. But yeah, at this point it seems like he's pretty locked in. But yeah, like it would just be great if they had a little bit more on the wing. And like Eric Williams Jr. seems like he just hit the transfer portal. It seems like he's either not coming back or hitting the transfer portal.
Yeah,
Um,
it was pretty strange. He originally, I think there was a report that he was going to be pursuing a professional career, and then there was another report that came out after that that I believe said that he entered his name in the transfer portal while he was testing out the professional waters. So it seems like, however this one ends up, it doesn't seem like he's going
Yeah,
to be playing
he's
with the
not with
Ducks
Oregon
next year.
anymore. Yeah, and so you hope for expanded roles for Davion Harmon, for Quincy Guerrier, who I think showed some good things as a four, and you just hope is a little bit more of a consistent shooter. But yeah, I uh, I'm I think that Kalel is just an NBA prospect that Oregon really hasn't had maybe ever. So yeah, like it's just he's going to be well, at least in the Dana Altman timeline of things, he's going to be very interesting and just all the news coming out of the McDonald's All American game is that he was one of the best players there as far as pro potential. So yeah, like having somebody there who's 7 feet tall, who potentially can stretch the floor a little bit, and then really finish in the paint. That's going to be a big thing for Oregon basketball.
Tons of pieces to be excited about if you're an Oregon basketball fan. Feels like every time I see a tweet about Khalil where he's putting up some bonkers stat line with like a million rebounds and blocking everything that comes his direction. Just a couple more for you, Michael. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us. This one's a little bit off script, but what's kind of different, I spend a lot of my time covering football recruiting, right? And that's something that is a very drawn out process, but it can also come together pretty quickly. But with football, you have classes that are sometimes 20 plus guys. But with football, it's much, much more condensed. And I feel like you have to be really calculated with the guys that you're taking, and they need to really fit your needs. How do you kind of feel like that approach maybe affects Oregon in particular, or maybe just some general insight into how coaches just really have to get the most out of these guys because they can only take so many?
Yeah, I feel like recruiting has changed so much with the way the transfer portal has worked out. Um, One can argue whether that's for the better or not. I personally think it's really interesting, and I'm all about player rights. So like the fact that a coach can just go and get a new job while a player would have to wait that 1 year. Like I like the fact that they now have that ability to at least that one time go straight to another school. But yeah, that's really changed things, and I don't know if it's as much of a factor in football. It seems like it's certainly somewhat of one, but yeah, I think coaches they really need to focus on getting the right players as well. And these are guys who I think now you're more than ever kind of hoping are ready to play right away. So yeah, like the fact that Kalel and Dior can come right in and play at Oregon, and now likely will have to, like, face some of these teams who are bringing in transfers who may have played at, like, some mid majors or smaller schools. You just heard today, like, Arizona State got the Cambridge brothers, Desmond and Devin, and so they'll have a couple guys who are contributing at some other schools, and I think that's going to just be a really interesting thing to look at in the Pac-12 in general, but just with the way Oregon deals with things. Oregon's always been really good at getting these good senior transfers. Now they're going to have to get them across classes as well.
Yeah, it certainly helps Oregon that those guys are ready to go with Dior and Kalel, and I think having them ready to go maybe takes a little bit of pressure off some of the other guys. Not that they're not high level guys as well, but you can kind of ease them in and adjust their transition a little bit more to your needs. One other thing I wanted to ask you, Michael, we've kind of alluded to it a couple times here on this episode of the Ducks Dish podcast, talking with Michael Weisenberg of Pro Insight. Just some early thoughts on next year's team. Obviously, this year was very underwhelming, I think would maybe be a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Just wildly inconsistent play from the Ducks on the hardwood, beating some of the best teams in the Pac-12 and then falling to really some of those bottom tier teams that they had no business losing to. Things come to an end in the NIT against Texas A&M, and now we have some guys that we're waiting decisions on, Will Richardson being one of them. Eric Williams not going to be back with the Ducks next year. What are your thoughts on kind of how this team looks next year, and maybe some early projections into how you think they could fare?
Yeah, Max, much like last year, like around this time when we had so many moving pieces and we didn't know who was going to come in the transfer portal, it's pretty uncertain. I think that they have a few starters in place. I'm kind of waiting for the shoe to drop with a couple other potential transfer portal entries. But I think it's going to really depend on who they get, like for the other guard, the other wing spots, basically. So yeah, like whoever they have at, like, you have kind of like Davion Harmon is this off guard. You don't really want him running the team. You have Dior potentially running the team, but you'd like to have another competent player to kind of give some initiator role to, and then just I think getting like that shooting wing, the 3-and-D wing potentially, like that's something else that Oregon really needs to look into. So yeah, like otherwise, it's hard to see them being that much better than they were this past year. But I think Dana Altman's done some great things with transfers. They certainly did that the year before when they bring in, like, they brought in Eugene Omoruyi, but getting like an LJ Figueroa was a big deal. And yeah, like I feel like this team is still, there's still some things to be written just in terms of scholarships and who they're going to replace. So the recruiting class looks very promising, but yeah, it's still so hard to say whether they're going to be competing at the top of the Pac-12 again.
All right, getting some good thoughts there from Michael as far as what next season might look like. It's obviously incredibly early, but I know Oregon fans are looking for their basketball fix after the season ended on a pretty sour note for both teams, with the women losing in the first round of the NCAA tournament to Belmont. But some positive thoughts and definitely things to look forward to coming next year in Matthew Knight Arena. Michael, we're going to get you out of here, but before we do, I want to make sure that I give you the floor to plug where people can find more of you, what you're doing at Pro Insight. Give us the socials, give us what you got in the works, any recent work you've been doing. Want to give you the floor, buddy.
Thanks so much, Max. You can find me at NBA Draft Mikey V on Twitter. And then at _ Pro Insight, perspectiveinsight.com. I just had an article come out about basically giving a breakdown of the McDonald's All-Americans and how they got to that point and what to expect for them in the future. I kind of expect that to be sort of an evergreen thing until they play in a college game or wherever they're playing next year. And then Nike Hoop Summit next week. event that's 12 of the best players who are high school seniors in the United States versus 12 of the best players under 19 from all over the world. That's going to be at Moda Center April 8th, and I'll be going to practices there. And we may see some future Oregon Ducks play against Team USA in the scrimmages there. And then Kalel Ware will be in that game. Yeah, otherwise, go to perspectiveinsight.com. There's tons of great basketball content, a lot of really good interviews. I know that we've done some with Brendan Rigsby, and we have a great video that we did with Jackson Shelstead as well. So yeah, just a lot to look forward to from Perspective Insight and their content with Oregon recruits.
Absolutely. Well, tons of great stuff on the way from Michael. Definitely tap in with him and give him a follow. Check out his great work. That's all we have for you guys on this episode of the Ducks Dish podcast. Huge shout out to Michael for joining the pod and helping us get our Oregon basketball fix. Definitely a reminder to you guys to follow me on Twitter at mtorresports, and definitely head over to Ducks Digest for all your latest Oregon Ducks coverage. We are in the peak full steam ahead with spring football, with that getting back underway here in Eugene. So that's our focus right now. But once we get a little basketball here and there, we got to be everywhere. All those big sports going on. So we dip our feet in our hand. I don't even know where I was going with that, but we're covering a little bit of everything is what I'm getting at. So I don't want to be rambling too much. Kindly ask you guys to like the video and subscribe on YouTube at Oregon Football Max Torres. That'll do it for us. Big shout out to Michael for coming on, and we'll see you guys in the next episode. Take care.